Okay, so what Greg's doing is he's putting on some texture first before we put our skin on. Now what that does, well, number one, a lot of stampers don't do that. They just put the texture in there and stamp it in there. But when you add a texture, it's very random, okay? And it kind of adds value to your texture pad before your skin even hits the wall, okay? This is the trick that we use. You don't have to do it. A couple points, you don't want to start right on your corner, okay? And the reason why you don't want to start right on your corner is because if you start right on your corner, where's the joint? Right on the outside corner. How dumb is that? So you want to kind of, you don't want to do that. So when you start back off of your corner so that all your edges, that's perfect. So what you're going to do is you're just going to apply it right in there, and you're just going to press in and smash it in there. In fact, what we could do is, where's our, we have a rubber mallet? Or no? Go ahead and just pound it in there real good with your fist if you want to.
You can use your knee too, that's easy to apply a lot of pressure.
Yeah, right now it's easy just to pop it in with your knee.
Yep. All right. Now, you don't want to use the same one, so you switch it up. No, you just shoot that with a little bit of your juice.
And if you're working by yourself, you got to just do one mat, and then if you have a helper, you can have him hold that mat there while you come over.
Now, line up your lines right on the hole, overlap your bowl, and then go right there. Okay, go ahead. You're good. Start right here where the seam is.
What are you going to do above that?
Okay, I'll tell you the difference between those two things. You can start at the top or you can start at the bottom. Yep. Okay, so the question is, what are you going to do about the bottom or the top? These skins or these texture pads are not designed for the full height. The reason is for that is if you're on the ground or something, you might have undulations in your ground that you have to compensate for and your skin won't work. Or your patio. If you're on the patio and you got a nice flat surface on your patio, you can align it to the base and work your way up. And on the top, you can go back with your smaller pieces and fill in, with your pieces on the top. All right. If you are doing this and there's grass on both sides, or maybe on the outside edge, if this is where the lawn is, or this is where your landscaping is, start your skin at the top. And that way your bottom can be wild turkey that runs into the ground. Because chances are you've got mulch and grass and everything else that's going to go up against that piece, okay? But if you're doing it on the inside where they see it, you start at the bottom and you work your way up. And these are designed so they have a couple different spaces that you could play with. But the skins are designed so that you have the flexibility or you're not pigeon-toed into, doing everything the same way. You do have some flexibility if you come across some anomalies in your base structure. Maybe you have a step up of some kind, and you need a couple extra inches to compensate for what you're stamping, all right? Implementing new rock into this piece is not a big deal, okay? You can easily go back and mark off what you want to have, to have a different stamp to it. For instance, you've got this extra piece right here. You can block it off and create different patterns. All you're doing is creating a joint, all right? So you've got a joint like there. You can flip it this way and create a smaller joint, or go with a completely different approach and hand carve them all with just a tuck pointing trowel and just make your own joints. But you're not tied to any one piece. Now we're probably going to make, we've got, how many different types of stamps do we have?
For work mode, I think we have 4 lines.
4 different types of lines. We've got this one, there's that one right here, we can try this one next. So let's say, everybody get a chance to put one more here. Use this. This is the last course to that piece. Let's just go ahead and flip this one up like this, spray that one down, smash that so we can see what that looks like. My next volunteer could take this smaller. This is a smaller, tighter, thinner stone. What's this one called?
Tight stack.
Tight stack. That was easy. So this one has a completely different look. As you can see, it's got deeper, it's not a mortar joint, whereas this piece is a mortar joint. Okay? If you look at it, you can see the mortar joints. This one doesn't have mortar joints. This would be more of a dry stack one. Go ahead, as soon as he's done with this piece, go ahead and spray down with the release. You don't have to marry it up. It's not going to marry it because you got three there. This only has two. So just start where you want to. We'll fill in the rest of the. Go ahead and shoot your wall and shoot the skin. Okay. You see the
Pound it in there good.
So what I'm going to do here with this outside edge is I'm going to make sure that
We have a grout tool on the other side for that.
well, I'm just going to make sure that I'm not going to necessarily use a stamp, you know, because I don't want those crazy lines in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand stamp the stone in here. Okay. All right. So that's just a couple lines. You see it better down here. If you want to accentuate it, he's got bigger stones out here, kind of eyeballing it right to this. Well, let me just carry it around so you guys can see this. We got a little bit of a difference. Watch your toe, or watch your foot there. Don't trash your.
Well, this one you were a little. You had a big blob. That's an easy stamp. Probably flying around.
So, you know, he opted to start on the base. Three ways, all right? Now, the concept of three ways is okay, if you're a mason, how many masons I have here? Just the one, two, maybe a couple? All right, so any mason will tell you if you talk to them, you don't want a joint going the whole, you know, through the whole, you don't want to go more than a couple stones before you interrupt that joint. Same with the horizontal, unless it's brick or mortar. You don't want to let a horizontal joint go through the entire wall. You try to break it up. You don't want a stair step or a jack on jack, or I forget, there's a couple other terms that they use for it. There's several principles with masonry that you don't want to get wrong, okay? So what three ways do is they make sure that there's a three-way intersection between all your stones, all right? So this pretty much helps you keep from making mistakes that an untrained mason would make, all right? So you take your three ways and you basically just punch them in. It's very random. And the more of these that you put in, the smaller the rocks become. You understand? If I just put a couple of these things in here, I'm going to have very large stones. If I put just if I put like a dozen of them in there, my rock pattern is going to be very small. So right now my rock pattern is going to be somewhat smaller. So now what we do is we just connect the dots. All right? Of course, you need to, if there is a mistake, or you need some once you get yourself going, you do have a weird line coming right here, so I do need to correct that. Corrected. All right, so we're getting down here to the end. This is a pretty basic pattern, random pattern. I see a couple problems with it from a masonry side, okay? But at least my pattern is already established. I can go back and correct it. I don't like the way this long line goes right through here, okay? I would correct that. So let's just block that off right there. And let's break it up in here somewhere. Okay? We got some goofy looking rocks like this sucker here. Looks like an upside down wine glass of some kind. We can break it like that. Pull this in a little bit like that. Kind of get rid of that weird shape a little bit. Okay, so if you're really struggling with design, this will get you started. And then from there you can start to see what works and what doesn't work. But at least you're not starting with nothing. I mean, if you start with nothing, it's crazy. You got S-shaped rocks and weird stuff that guys put on the walls, and they think it's, you know, a lot of curves and weird stuff. Okay, that's not rock-like. You got to start with something. And once you see something, a lot of guys, once they see something, they can pick out all the problems with it. Then it's just a matter of being inspired to, you know, to push the envelope a little bit. If you're going to use the three ways, just know.